Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of First Attack. I am James Chen, part of UltraChenTV. Thanks everybody for joining in today, and today I'm just basically going to do another Ask Jchensor special on, I did an Ask Jchensor special a few weeks ago, and people seem to really like it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And again, guys, if the background music is too loud, let me know. If I am not talking loud enough, let me know. So let's just get right to it. I'm just going to answer a bunch of questions here. So let's just go ahead and get started here. And this is going to be pretty off the cuff. I'm just going to be going through a bunch of emails that I've received in the past. Again, some of these might be pretty old, so hopefully it won't be a problem here. So, you know, I mean, one little tricky thing about the Ask Jchensor questions that I get is a lot of them generally cover kind of the same areas and the same topics that I've talked about before. So here's one, for example, from a Paul here, a Paul A. He says he's a beginning Street Fighter player, as well as new to fighting games in general, and he's been learning, as much as he can. He's been practicing a lot in training mode to learn Juri. But whenever he gets into a match, he tends to hesitate a lot and freeze up, and doesn't really know how to get his offense started. He says, I know Juri is a zoning character, so it would be better to back off and start the zoning game with some fireballs. Basically, the punishes and combos that he does in training mode, he has very hard time applying in an actual match. And he feels like he's always playing defensively and passively, waiting for his opportunities. So he's basically always just kind of waiting for stuff to happen and trying to punish, but he never can get his own offense going if the opponent doesn't do anything. So he's asking, how can he fix this? And, does he just need to come up with some game plans? Well, I mean, this is obviously a multi-part question here. So the first thing I will say is that Juri can be a zoning character, but at the same time, she can be a very offensive character too. She's got a very fast jump. She's got some great jumping normals, such as like jumping strong, jumping fierce, which can be really ambiguous on cross-up situations. She's also got, the pinwheel attack, which, if a lot of opponents aren't ready for it, yeah, a lot of times it can be punishable, but you could sneak it in a lot of places that opponents won't be ready to punish it right away. So she can be offensive, she can be defensive. If you find yourself playing defensive a little too often and always just kind of waiting for your opponent, you kind of touched on it a little bit, trying to come up with your own game plan. And that's really key. You have to understand what the advantages your character has over the opposing character in specific situations. I've talked about distances in one of the episodes a long time ago where, for example, a Ryu-Cammy match. Cammy has an advantage against Ryu right up close to him. A little further away, Ryu has a slight advantage, and then over here, Cammy has an advantage. That's the kind of thing that you're just going to have to experiment with, Juri. Play against your opponents. When you play against their characters, find out what distances you're having trouble with. Like, let's say you're fighting against a Sagat, and Sagat just keeps hitting standing forward and standing short, and you can't seem to beat him for some strange reason, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this must be a bad distance for Juri. So then you start playing a little further game away and keep experimenting that way. Also, take advantage of the myriad of resources out there. Try Shuriken.com, try all the websites out there where you can go to a forum and talk to people and ask them for advice. Oftentimes, you'll see things like, oh my gosh, I can't beat the standing short move with this character, what do I do? And someone will point out, like, throw out a standing fierce, and it's like a button you've never thought of trying, and it turns out to work really well. So yeah, try to get a lot of resources out there, but mainly another thing is when you play online, I talk about this a lot, don't be so focused on winning. Go ahead and experiment a lot, put yourself into bad situations on purpose and see if you can get out of them. If you find that there is a situation where a guy just keeps hitting standing forward and he keeps beating you, just keep trying to beat it. Walk into it 17 times in a row. Keep hitting buttons until you find something that beats it. Doesn't matter if you lose. Who really cares? You're just playing online and you're trying to get better at the game, so just keep experimenting. Another part that's really important in your question here is that you're asking, you know, whenever you practice all your stuff in training mode and then all of a sudden you go into a real match and all of a sudden stuff doesn't work anymore and you have trouble pulling off these combos and stuff, that's just nerves. That's just going to be nerves, and it's also going to be unfamiliar situations. If you just keep playing it enough and always try to go for those things, like for example you have this nice combo that can punish people, you know, spend a whole game trying to whip bait uppercuts, spend a whole game trying to land a focus crumple. Try a whole game where you're just like trying to backdash through things, you know, to get them to whiff wake ups and such. And then whenever you do get those opportunities, go for your punish. If the opponent doesn't ever fall for these things, don't worry about it. Again, you're training yourself for certain situations, and what you're just hoping to do is get yourself accustomed to seeing those particular situations. So as soon as you see a whiffed uppercut, as soon as you see a focus crumple, as soon as you knock someone dizzy, you know, what to do instantly comes to your mind. You don't have to think about it. You won't be nervous about it because you've already done it a bunch of times in battle. So that's definitely just a familiarity thing. Keep playing as much as you can, and keep trying to do these situations. Like if you run into situations where you see someone whiff an uppercut and you're like, I'm not ready for my combo, I'm just going to throw him instead. Don't. Go for your combo and fail. Go for your combo and fail. Keep going for your combo and keep failing until you succeed the first time. Then when you succeed the first time, you'll be like, okay, I got this. And then you'll fail again a bunch of times and then try again and you'll succeed, and eventually you'll start succeeding more often than you fail. But the whole thing is, don't scare yourself from trying it. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Alright? So hopefully that answers those questions there for you. Let's go to another question here. This is actually a really interesting question, and not one that's very common. And it's really interesting because this kind of deals with community. This is from Alejandro Sanchez, not the Alex Sanchez that we know, but it's a different one. And basically what he's talking about, and in this particular case, the biggest fighting game that's played around where he is at is Smash Brothers Brawl. And this really has nothing to do with the game per se, but more just with the community that he has to deal with. And in this situation, there's a couple of top players in their community, and they are not helpful. They, let's see how he describes it. He says their attitude sucks. They are cocky, but they also pull things just to make sure that they always win. So for example, if they have if a character A is doing well in the tournament, and he has to face the winner between player B and C, player B and C will determine which of their characters has a better chance against player A, purposely win, like the other guy will just purposely lose just so they can beat that character. And so basically, unfortunately, they also are the best players in that community, so it's hard for a lot of people to defeat them. So, you know, one, how do you handle this kind of community situation? And two, you know, he asks a very important question. Would you stop using the character you love in order to win? Or would you keep using your not so good character and keep losing to these people? Alright, so here's, for one thing, I mean, this is just a rough situation. When you have a community and they are not particularly helpful and that they enjoy winning too much and they are better than everybody else, that's going to be a tough situation to deal with. Honestly, the best thing you can probably do is find everybody just under their level and train with them. Like I don't necessarily mean in secret, but yeah, train without those expert players. Let's say there's 4 guys who are the best and they just keep dominating everything and they don't like sharing any of their techniques. Find players 5, 6, and 7, go meet up together and keep playing with each other. And not only that, but have each other use the characters that those top players use. Not only will you start picking up things about those characters that you didn't know, but you'll also be finding out ways to fight them. So if you guys keep trading off in that situation, you'll learn a lot, and hopefully what will happen is that the smaller group of you will get better enough to defeat them. The other thing to do is really honestly just try talking to them. I mean, if they're gonna be cocky, if you try talking to them and be like, yo, help us out, let's make everybody stronger, and if they just refuse to do that, then you know, honestly, the best thing to do is you're just gonna have to level up and try to beat them as best as possible, or just stop inviting them to events. Just play with each other, with people who are actually willing to learn. But just try talking to them, you know, see if you can get them to understand your viewpoint and situation. Obviously, that's just me. I have a great faith in humanity. A lot of times, much to my detriment, I always try to think better of people, and not everybody is that way, but, you know, it's the way it works. But, you know, the other question that you ask here is, would you stop using the character you love in order to win, or would you keep using your not so good character? I would do both. I would actually take the time to learn another character that might help you in that matchup, but stick with your main character. It's good to have a primary and a secondary character in situations like this. So if your opponent likes to use a Marth, and you're finding your character can't deal with Marth, find someone who can deal with Marth and use that character specifically to fight Marth. Like, learn some matchups, learn that matchup. But then for the most part, stick with your main character. Main character happens to be, say, Olimar or something like that. Just keep using it. Just keep doing it. But pick up a secondary character that may help you out in that situation. It can't be bad having both in your pocket. And in fact, maybe even learn a third character if you want, because it might actually be very useful to have that knowledge as well. It's never a bad thing to learn multiple characters. It's always good to have them. And a lot of times it's scary to use secondary characters in tournaments, because even in a situation where, let's say, you're using a character that beats B, and you also have a character C that loses to B, if C is your main character, you know, you're still going to be more comfortable fighting that fight, even though it's a bad fight, than it will be using your secondary character. The only thing you can do there is just keep using your secondary character and see if it feels comfortable until you get comfortable with the character. I mean, let's face it, when you first used your main character, you weren't comfortable with them either, and eventually you learned them and figured them out. So, you know, keep sticking with the secondary character and until you get used to them, so that you might be able to defeat your opponents. And again, I mean, it's really crappy that you have this community problem here with some cocky players who just enjoy dominating and winning and don't like to share. Like I said, form your own crew of the second tier players and level each other up. Like, give each other advice. When you're playing, have one of those other guys watch and see what the opponent's doing, picking up tactics and such like that, and then go and use those tactics against each other when you actually get a chance to play casual. So there are ways to get around there. Alright, let's go to the next question here. So, William W. here asks, do you think some lack of hype or informative commentary for games can push away new players? You know, he's talked about commentators like Ultra David, Magus, 1234, obviously Chris Matrix, Yipes. You know, they inspire people who don't play Marvel or whichever game to play those games because they're super hype and informative and stuff. But he's complaining that in older Tekken streams, you know, he hears stuff like, oh, 2C, ooh, 4A, and, you know, and nothing really to relate what the player is doing. And he just basically says some streams he can't really get into if the game he doesn't play, because the commentary just doesn't seem to be conducive to viewing. And, you know, this is something that I have worried about, and I've seen it in Persona commentary as well. You know, a lot of people like to use the word DP instead of furious attack, for example, and, you know, they use a lot of terms that are unfamiliar with players. And, you know, with a game like Persona still brand new, it might even be worth it to still explain things like the Cyclone meter or the Orgia meter and stuff like that, because the game is still relatively new. I know in Marvel, I explained game mechanics that were super basic for at least a good, like, 4 months after Vanilla came out, even longer than that. Sometimes I still bring it up. But at the same time, Tekken commentary has gone a lot farther now, and a lot of the players who are doing commentary really understand this. Rip, MYK, Eris, they're all amazing commentators. You listen to them, and they're putting out so many videos. Again, this question was asked before Tekken Tag 2 was out. And Tekken Tag 2, I see a world of difference now. The commentary is amazing. It's like super hype and super exciting. I love what the Tekken community is doing with the commentary for that game, and I'm super enjoying watching Tekken these days. I haven't yet played it yet, only because I just don't have the time. I know Ultra David's been playing it a lot, and he's actually been picking up a lot of things and upping his skill in that game. And, you know, as we talked about last week, maybe hopefully in November and December you can watch Ultra David kick my ass in Tekken for a bunch, you know, while I try to learn that game as well. But you know, honestly, it's a world of difference. But I do agree with you. Yes, I think commentary, there is a responsibility for commentators to be entertaining, informative at the same time. Yet at the same time, don't completely pander to the lowest viewer. You know, and that's the hardest thing is, you know, with sports like basketball and football, you can talk about things. You can say, oh, that was a nice pick and roll, or, you know, oh, he goes for the safe catch and stuff like that. You don't have to explain what a safe catch is. Obviously, these games have been around forever. They've been around forever, and so, you shouldn't have to explain these things, even if there are new people watching, because the amount of people who know kind of outweighs the people who don't know. But in the fighting game community, I actually do think that the people who don't know are about even with the people who do know. So right now it is our responsibility to be informative and instructive and to teach people things. But, you know, as time goes on, as more people watch fighting games, as more knowledgeable the audience gets, that can go away, and then we can just focus on, you know, the strategy, analysis, and the entertainment part of it. So, yeah, we're definitely still in growing pains right now. There's still stepping stones that we've got to examine. So, it'll be a while before we can get to that point. So, it's a experiment. We're all learning, and it's an experiment for all of us at the same time. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, guys. When I come back, we'll have some more Ask Jchensor questions. And yes, everybody's been spamming the chat about it. I will get to Cammy winning a bunch of majors in a row now and just basically going on a domination tear right now. I will get to that towards the end of the episode, so stick around. Welcome back, everybody, to First Attack. I'm James Chen, and I'm here to try to teach as much about Street Fighter as possible and fighting games in general. Obviously, I'm not here to teach anybody about football because I know nothing about it. Yes, I did mean a fair catch, not a safe catch, so my bad. Football is not my area of expertise. In any case, let us continue forward here as I continue to embarrass myself with lack of football knowledge. All right. So, someone actually just asked me an interesting, he just wants to know, tell me about the man who is James Chen. Like, what is your background in the fighting game community and what made you the man you are today? Where does James Chen want to see the fighting game community go? What are your dreams and hopes? What am I wearing? Well, you can see what I'm wearing. I'm just not wearing any pants right now, but, just overall in general, you know, I've been playing fighting games forever, and, you know, pretty much the reason why I try to help people as much as possible is because I want the fighting game community to grow. I just want it to grow as much as I can, and that's why I've been writing facts, doing combo videos, making tutorial videos, and all this stuff, you know, for as long as I can remember. Now what I do is commentary and this First Attack show, because I want to expand the fighting game community. I want to make it so that everybody could enjoy this. People who follow me on Twitter have probably seen it. I've been going on a little Twitter battle earlier today, you know, talking about what the fighting game community needs to do. And also, you know, a lot of people have very old school mentalities with fighting games. I feel like a lot of that needs to change now. A lot of the old school mentality that we have with fighting games just isn't going to fly anymore, because the competitive market has grown so big, the viewership has grown so much bigger, and the scope of it has grown so big that if we try to remain where we were before steadfastly and a little bit stubbornly, I think we'll kind of hold ourselves back. So I would like to see fighting games grow a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, strangely enough, I've been in the fighting game community. I've been doing this stuff longer than I haven't been for over half my life, and everybody knows how old I am. So that's got to be pretty impressive. So I mean, honestly, you know, this is one of my dreams and hopes, is to get the fighting game community somewhere huge. Obviously, a lot of people saw the League of Legends World Finals this weekend, and everybody was super excited about that, and just says, why can't the fighting game community get there? You know, to be honest, I don't know if we'll ever get there, but we can come close, and it's going to take a lot of work, though. It is going to take a lot of work. How it's going to get there, I don't know, and that's the problem. Nobody knows. We're all still trying to figure it out. If we knew, we'd be there already, right? So we're all still trying to figure it out. I honestly think a lot of it has to do with Capcom and Namco and more Japanese companies getting on board. Namco's already doing an amazing job. The World Tekken Foundation, is that what it is? A federation? The WTF, where they track all the stats and everything like that. They're already doing an amazing job. Namco has really stepped up the game. I hope other companies like Capcom follow suit and everybody just keeps going, because honestly, it needs to keep growing. It does need to keep growing. All right, let's see here. Interesting question here from Kraken. Which do I prefer, Alpha 2 or Alpha 3? I like Alpha 3 better. I love Alpha 3, and Ultra David is booing me in the background here. And the reason why I like Alpha 3 is because they really experimented in that game. They really tried a lot of stuff, and I feel like it's one of the most creative Street Fighter games ever. The characters are all super fascinating. They did really interesting things, like Karen is a really interesting character, Armika's a really interesting character, you know. And, you know, it was the first game they came out with isms. They tried this flipping mechanic. They gave counter hits. They gave, you know, the mashing for the white damage. They went to town on this game. And so it's something that I really, really, really like about the game. And if it wasn't for the fact for the crouch canceling infinites and custom combos being completely stupid and killing pace in the game, I think Alpha 3 would be an amazing game. I would love to see a revival for the game with the crouch canceling removed and just a little nerf to the custom combos in a way, and then leave the rest of the game itself intact. But I've always liked it better. Alpha 2 is definitely a more fundamentally sound Street Fighter game. But I personally just really dislike things like alpha counters and Vi CCs. So that game, definitely I had my issues with it. So, but in general, I do like Alpha 3 better. Okay. I apologize, guys. Right now, I do want to answer questions in the stream as well, but I can't see anything for some...
Yeah, so the Twitch chat isn't working. I just confirmed it with you.
Oh, Twitch chat isn't working right now? Oh, okay. Sorry, guys at home, the Twitch chat isn't working, so you guys are going to have to be... I'm not going to be able to answer those questions for now, so I'm just going to keep answering questions here. So Michael Doe asks a very obvious question: who is more handsome, Ultra David or James Chen? Well, I mean, obviously I think Ultra David is more handsome. So yeah, trust me, he's a handsome man. He's a handsome man. So, but seriously, he said, do you guys think there's still hidden tech in AE 2012 that we haven't discovered yet? And yes, actually, the unblockable technology is getting huge. For a while, Street Fighter was ruled by vortexes. Now I feel like Street Fighter is being ruled by unblockables. And, you know, David was tweeting about this all day today, about discovering technology to counter unblockables. So there's definitely going to be a lot more tech to try to take care of that situation. There's a lot of things that we don't know about, like just using normal moves to shift your hitbox to avoid unblockables and stuff like that. And shout outs to Gilly. He's talked to David about a lot of those and has come up with some for Guile, for example, that avoid certain unblockables. So yeah, there's easily going to be more technology. And in fact, if AE 2012 stayed the same game for the next 10 years, I bet you in 10 years we'll still be fighting new things. It's just like Super Turbo, where T-Hawk basically went from basically worst character in the game to like top 4 or top 5 in the game. T-Hawk is ridiculous now in that game. So Technology is still going to be discovered. And of course, a lot of people are following me on Twitter probably, find that kind of odd because, I admit that much. And yet at the same time, I said on Twitter today that I actually believe games should be patched more often. They don't necessarily contradict with each other. I'm not saying that I think games should be patched because they're broken and they're not fun. I just think that by patching games constantly and keeping them, every year, like through a season, like don't do it during the middle of the season. Keep the game consistent, and then after a season's over, evaluate certain things and tweak them, in a fair manner too. Don't go nerfing people, like crazy. But I feel like that would benefit the scene because, the focus is now more on the tournament competitive field. If Zero turns out to just blow everybody away and it's not fun, then let's go ahead and do something to Zero to try to increase it. Because not only does that, keep people interested knowing that the game will change and that certain things have the potential to go away, but it keeps people understanding that you as a company care about your game. Like the fact that Blizzard actually goes and patches their game, or that League of Legends, if a character is broken, they'll go patch them. There's a little comfort knowing that this company actually cares about your game. As a player, it saddens me to know that Marvel is not going to get patched according to Nitsuma, that it's just going to stay exactly how it is. And it's kind of discouraging in a way. We see all these TAC Infinites, people are getting way better at them. In the future, we may end up seeing a game with like 1,000 TAC Infinites, and it might just become super boring. And it's very discouraging to know that this could potentially never be fixed. But if I knew that at the end of every, quote, season, unquote, that there was evaluations and patches that were designed to remove these kind of things, I would be encouraged. I would keep playing the game. I would deal with the TAC Infinites until the next season, and then we would move on from there. It's just an encouragement, and it keeps the game fresh, and it keeps the game, people interested. Not saying that the games are boring and that you won't be interested in it, but it keeps people excited, and there's always going to be a little bit more unknown factors coming up. So I think that helps a little bit. And again, I don't mean like super huge patches either. I don't mean like crazy things. It really needs to be a system of very, very subtle nerfs. Holy moly, that's a long email. Okay, here's the question here. I like this question here. All right. So this email was sent right after Revelations completed, and he said congrats to Champ for taking it. But, once again, Zangief has not won a major. And he says the fact that Snake Eyes was close to winning it, and in a set of 10 parallel universes where he's put in that same situation, he'd probably win at least half of them, where he was up 2-1 and up 1-0 in rounds. He'd probably win at least half of them. So it got him thinking. Me and David have talked about this before, about characters who are competitive and characters who can win tournaments. And there's kind of a difference between the two. Fortunately, in Street Fighter 4, to be honest with you, so many of the characters can win tournaments now. So most of them are not only competitive, but capable of winning tournaments. But, he says that, Zangief has always been in that discussion as a character who's competitive but can't win tournaments. And he asks if I think that's still valid and if this is the closest Geef we'll ever get. And what other characters, if any, do you think are in that same group? What other characters are competitive but unable to win tournaments? And, gosh, you'd be surprised by anything, right? I mean, a lot of us didn't think Rocket Raccoon was any good of a character, and Kusuro goes and wins final round with him, Zangief, I would not be surprised if he won a major anytime soon. The Zangief technology is pretty intense out there right now. And you know what? I bet you, I don't know, Zangief has a hard time getting cross-ups on people ever since they nerfed the EX green hand a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if Zangief started finding unblockables off of his regular throw. And so like a regular throw is going to end up killing you, for example. So to be honest with you, we haven't seen the last of Zangief, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won a major anytime soon. Snake Eyes getting that far is not a fluke, And now that he's sponsored by AGE, he's going to be able to make it out to a lot more tournaments. And so I think the chances of us seeing Snake Eyes and Zangief winning a major in Street Fighter 4 is only increased. I honestly don't think that there's going to be a problem. And, you know, Hakan, DJ, Dan, Blanca, Vega. Yeah, a lot of... I mean, Vega, I don't even want to put in that character because I think Vega's a really good character in this game. And a lot of Vega players have talked to me and they said that he's a really good character. I don't think Dan is bad. And in fact, in Europe, David, if I'm not mistaken, Dan made it to 3rd place in a tournament in Europe just recently.
No, actually, just got got 2nd place in Sweden. Qualified for Paris, where you can qualify for the
okay.
25th.
Oh, okay. So he got 2nd place. Where did he qualify for the Paris then?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so he's going to get to go to Paris, where they will play for a qualification spot in the 25th anniversary tournament there. So there you go. I mean, it wasn't a major, but Dan got 2nd place. He's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be unheard of. And Infiltration plays Hakan. If he went to a major and decided to play Hakan for most of the tournament, I bet you he could get at least to, you know, top 4 using only Infiltration. Using only Hakan. So honestly, I don't think a lot of these characters are hopeless. I bet you, given time, we are going to see a lot of these characters win majors, especially in a game like Street Fighter 4, which is so balanced right now. Unless the balance of the game gets skewed with the characters who can take advantage of unblockables more and more start taking place. It's really going to come down to that. I mean, if unblockables become the way the game is played, then what's going to happen is that the characters with the best setups, the easiest setups, and the most damage are going to be the ones who are going to win. But I do think that they all have a chance. I think Vega has a chance to win a major, absolutely. So, alright guys, I'm going to take another quick break, and when I come back, I'll see if I can answer a couple more questions, and then I'll go into the Cammy situation. So, I'll be back. Alright everybody, welcome back to First Attack, and you probably see here on the screen, I have some characters here on the screen. And that's because one of the things that I really do enjoy doing is helping people with execution. I've actually helped a couple of players, in fact some strong players, even in something like Marvel. I'm an execution fiend. I love doing combos, and so from a history of doing combo videos, I've done a lot of stuff like that. So I tend to understand why things work and don't work a little bit. So a question that I was asked a while ago actually was there's a jury player, and basically he says that he really has trouble connecting Jury's Ultra 2 after this move. And I'm not a jury player, so I'm not going to be very good at landing this myself. But his question is that, you know, he's tested around in training mode. The problem is that it won't connect 60% of the time. He's tried delaying it, inputting it as fast as possible, and everything in between. Also tried when the screen is close to the left or the right. The problem isn't the button input. He comes out with the Ultra every single time, but why is it that he can't ever seem to get this to connect, right? And so the answer to this, there's going to be a two-part answer to this question. The main thing right now is that the consistency of this is not going to be very good. Because if you notice one thing about this move is that depending on how you hit them, how far away they are from the edge of the screen, how low you are to the ground when you actually hit them, how high up in the air they are, there's so many factors that can contribute to whether or not you're going to be able to, or what the timing is to do the move. So, for example, he's way higher up, and he's got to fall to the ground in that situation. In this situation, he's a lot lower, so he's going to fall to the ground faster. So the timing gets a little bit different every single time. So you're going to have to use something else to help you. Not the timing, not the distance from the corner and such like that. You're going to need something else to help you. And I've heard this from somebody else, someone who's used Jury, who's really good at landing this. What he told me was, do the ultra as soon as you see your opposing character fall past the life bar. And so the life bar is a static object on the screen. After Juri lands, you can kind of see she lands quickly. So the life bars are going to be kind of equal, and a good measure of where Ryu's height is, where he is compared to the ground. So if I do it right when he passes it there, okay, so that was a little too early. So let's try again. Boom. Let's try a little bit later after he passes the life bar a little. Okay, I think that was about the same timing as before. So, God, these ultras take forever. Let's watch a cutscene. So let's try a little bit lower than that. Okay, so he's a little bit lower. Got him. Okay, so now if I just practice judging it, regardless of distance from the corner, regardless of what height I hit him, that I want to do it right after he passes the life bar a little. Let me see if I can get him high up in the air. Hold still. Whoa, I auto-corrected that one. That was weird. But again, I did it too early. I could feel myself do it a little too early. He was still kind of... He hadn't quite fully passed the life bar yet. So let's try it one more time. Okay, that should work. There you go. So now I'm connecting it a lot more often. And so I can just keep doing this all day, but I don't know if there's any point for me doing this all day. Oh my goodness, really? Too early. Oh no, I still got it. Okay, cool. But see, it's a good way to do it. So now, instead of basing it on timing or input or doing it as fast as you can or doing it as slow as you can or whatever not, you have another static method by which you can actually try to do the combo. And that's actually one of the things that always helps to do combos. Try to find a situation that doesn't change. Try to find a way that things don't vary to find your timing with things. So another one that I like to use obviously is audio cues. I like to listen to the timing of the buttons and getting used to that. Definitely helps if you're a musician or you play a lot of music. But see, now that I know about that situation, I can connect it way more often. And honestly, I'm not a Juri player. I've never been good at landing this. And so the fact that I can land it far more consistently now is definitely a testament to that strategy. See, now, there you go. I've done it like 4 times in a row. So there you go. It's a really good way to landing that issue. So, and a lot of people are saying don't use Juri's Ultra 2, use Ultra 1. But you know what? Yeah, that's if you want to get to high level. But, you know, if you're a beginning Juri player and you're just starting to pick up on her and you really want to use Ultra 2, I mean, far be it for people to tell you that you're using the wrong Ultra, so go ahead and use that one. So there you go. Another question here is, and this one is a rough one. I do this too myself, to be honest with you. It's really tough, and I know a lot of Vipers hate this situation. One of the question here that we have is, after watching the execution video, how do you not do a super when you're canceling from a normal? For example, you know, with Viper, let me see. With Viper, how do you do Fierce Feint, Down Fierce to EX Seismo and not get the super to come out? This actually happens to a... Ooh, my buttons are wrong. How funny. So let's see here. I'm horrible at Viper combos, by the way. So, oops. So how do you do that without end up doing super? So basically the question is, I want to do low fierce into EX Seismo, but a lot of times I come out with super instead because you're sitting here doing like that, right? You're just kind of getting the situation. Honestly, in Street Fighter 4, there's a lot of ways to get around this situation. The way that I've always done it with Viper is I've kind of cheat, and I take advantage of the fact that there are code shortcuts. You cannot do a super without touching forward on the controller. So one thing you can do is that when you do the low fierce into EX Seismo, don't ever touch forward on the controller. Hold offensive crouch, hit fierce, defensive crouch, offensive crouch into EX Seismo, and then you'll get the launch. You'll get this and never have the worry of coming out with a super. And that's kind of one of the ways. Either that or just practice as much as you can. But a lot of the times it's best to try to find ways to trick the game or, you know, keep yourself from getting into that situation. So if I want to do this, oh my god, I'm so bad with Viper. Oh wait, I can't do it with that. That was not a combo. I am very bad at Viper. So let's see. Okay, that was 2 hits. There we go. And so what I'm always doing is making sure that I keep my controllers down at the bottom here. I never get to any of the straight ones to end up doing the EX Seismo. So the super will never come out in that situation. Do things like that. All right, so about 10 minutes left, first of attack. So, well, actually, here's an interesting question for someone. Do I consider Smash a fighting game? Why do you think so many people hate on it in the FGC, especially when Melee was so deep and technical? People just hate on it because they just don't see the merit in it, and a lot of people just kind of look at it and they're like, oh, look, there's Mario characters and Yoshi, so it's not serious. And I do consider Melee a fighting game. Like I said, I consider Virtual Lawn a fighting game. I consider a lot of things fighting games. So, you know, I have no qualms calling Smash a fighting game. People who don't think Smash is a fighting game, they have something against the game. They do not want to accept it as a fighting game, and I just don't think that that's a valid concern. So, okay. So, obviously everybody's been waiting here, waiting for me to talk about Cammy here. And because obviously she won 2 majors this last weekend. Tokido, so another foreign player, we already had K-Brad defeating the Korean players Infiltration and Laugh with Cammy at Seasons Beatings. We had a Brazilian Cammy player defend his home turf by using Cammy to defeat Tokido's Akuma. And then at T13, we had Chirithi again defeating Dominion with Cammy, taking that tournament. So she's won 3 majors in a row, and I think there was a 4th major somewhere else that she's won. So, you know, I mean, here's the situation, right? I've always said that I'm waiting for Cammy to really prove to me that she's top tier, and I'm waiting for, oops, sorry, let me change the camera views here. Every time I have a joystick in training mode in front of me, I cannot help but keep doing combos and stuff like that. So it's just how I am. I love training mode to death. Oops. There we go. Okay, so question is, what do I think of Cammy? Do I think she's top tier now? Yes, I do think she's top tier now. I think she's gotten to the point where she's very much top tier. Top 3? Probably so. And the main reason why is because a shift in the way the game is going now. I talked about how vortexes ruled the game. And my original top 5 was Viper, because she had a vortex, Ibuki because she had a vortex. A lot of people got mad at me about that because they didn't think Ibuki was that good. I think Seth is top. I used to think Akuma was top. And I just thought Fei Long was top because I thought Fei Long was a really good character. But the shift in this game now is starting to move away from this vortex, and the unblockable is even more potent. And what makes it really interesting now is that if unblockables get more and more potent like this, then the characters who can do unblockables, of course, are going to be the best characters. Now, I've had a whole episode where I talked about why unblockables work, and I showed that, you know, pretty much every character is going to have an unblockable. The reason why Cammy has so many unblockables right now is because players like Alion use her, and Alion is super technical. So he knows all these unblockable setups. So, you know, the question now is, when's the Viper unblockable is going to come into play and such like that? But the main question is that going to matter? Because the key with Cammy is that not only is she going to get these unblockables off the dive kicks, she's going to get some ridiculously stupid damaging combo with high stun. And high damage and high stun, so it's only going to take 2 situations to kill you. Rufus, for example, if he had an unblockable, he'll probably still need to hit you with like 3 of them before you're even remotely dizzy, because he just can't do the same kind of damage Cammy can without meter. So, Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, it's with the shift of this unblockables, I honestly would say that I think Cammy is top 5, top 3 in this game now because she can do so much damage and she has the technology. I'm even starting to shift Sakura up a little bit higher now. And I think she's probably top 5 because her unblockable technology is starting to get off the charts as well. Flash Metroid has, used both Cammy and Sakura. So we've seen a lot of unblock. I mean, he's another one of those guys who loves experimenting and finding these kind of things. And frankly, as more and more characters start developing consistent unblockables, it's going to be the characters who can do them the most consistently, the easiest setups, the most opportunities, and the highest damage off of them. And Cammy's back throw gives her a lot of potential for that. Granted, a lot of the unblockables are really hard to time. And honestly, one of the reasons why I didn't think she was so great was because I thought that they would be too hard to get consistent at. But apparently, players like Chirithi and K-Brad and Brazilian K-Brad, as Combo Fiend calls him, and all these guys, Chirithi, Alion, are getting very good at consistently landing these really situations. I mean, in my Unblockable episode, I talked about having normal move sequences that give you the proper timing and the distancing. A lot of Cammys are really just like take a step, standing, jab, jump, and dive kick at just the right height, which makes it a little bit hard to do consistently. But if you can do it consistently, then more power to you. And honestly, I hate unblockables. A lot of people know this. When they see me tweet about it, I hate unblockables. And I really am sad to come to the realization that Capcom may have balanced Cammy knowing she had unblockables. Just like, you know what, she'll be good once people start getting consistent with these unblockables. And I think that's a shame because I hate them. I don't think they should be there. I don't consider them legitimate tactic, to be honest with you. And it's always been hard for me to really take them into account when going over tiers. I mean, if Cammy did not have unblockables, I would go right back to believing Cammy is a top 10 character, maybe just outside the top 10. But I mean, it's just time that I just admit that unblockables are the thing now, and they're taking over. It's like roll canceling, right? You can't tier characters without roll canceling because roll canceling is everything now. So, honestly, it's getting to the point now where Cammy is definitely probably top 1, top 2, maybe best character in the game because she has the best unblockables. She has the most known unblockables, and she gets the most ridiculous damage and stun off of these unblockables. So, without unblockables, don't get me wrong, she's still a super effective character, but I feel like a lot of other characters are still better than she is. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I have to just go with it now. I have to go with Cammy as being an extremely powerful character. I don't think she's necessarily more broken than anybody else or cheap because these unblockables aren't easy to do. And but she still has so many potential things, which is why I'm so frustrated by the unblockables. Because if you took away the unblockables, she'd still be so good in this game. She'd still be a super strong character and doesn't have to rely on something completely retarded that shouldn't be in the game. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that word, but completely, like, it's just like, it's not a legitimate tactic. It's just like, what is this? It's like you're taking advantage of this ridiculous glitch in a game that shouldn't be there. Yeah, there's unblockables in games like Marvel and stuff like that, but God, unblockables are the last thing you have to worry about. I would take an unblockable setup over anything Zero does to you when you come into the screen any day of the week, And so unblockables are the least of the problem, but in a game like Street Fighter where everything is so controlled and precise and exact, unblockables are a problem. Now, I hinted at it earlier that Ultra David has been talking with people such as Gilly and such about coming with anti-unblockable techniques. And that may be the next step in the evolution of this game, is that once we start figuring out all the unblockables, there will be situations where a wake-up low jab will get you past this unblockable, or with Viper, purposely do a burn kick because it puts you into the air in the first frame. So if you get kicked out of the air, at least you get kicked out of the air and you can still land on your feet and get away from the unblockable setup. In certain situations, if Sakura's got an unblockable setup on you, focus dash through it, take the option select sweep just to take less damage. She can't unblockable you anymore. That may be where the game is going to go. And if that's where the game is going to go, then, then we're all going to have to learn it in that way. So unless they decide to patch this game, which would surprise me very much if they actually decided to do another update to this game. But you never know. You never know. Street Fighter is still their cash cow, is still the main game played internationally. So they may have a lot of support still left in store for this game. I don't know. But yes, I am going to say yes, Cammy is top 3, perhaps top 2 right now in this game. And someone just asked me a question. Who is Gilly? Gilly is a old school Guile player, very good at Guile combos and such. He's got a lot of combo videos out there. You should go look for him. When Street Fighter 4 first came out, he actually got his own Street Fighter board for his home just to play the game and to figure it out and stuff like that. I mean, he's really dedicated. Obviously, he works for a game company right now. Very busy guy. Has not had a chance to go out to tournaments as much before, but he's always been a decently strong player. So. Yeah, someone asks, Madge? You know, Gilly and Madge, they kind of work at the same company right now, and they're good friends, so for sure. They do work for separate companies, but they kind of work for the same company. Anyway. That's about it that I have for now, so let's go ahead and call it for this episode and go for some level 3 focus with Ultra David. He is going to be covering the Cross Tekken match from the Brazilian tournament with GamerB versus Tokido, because there was a lot of interesting things happening in that tournament that he wants to point out and hopefully help people understand and enjoy Cross Tekken a lot more. So stick around for that, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and if you have any more Ask Jchensor questions, please send them to ultrachentv@gmail.com with the subject line of Ask Jchensor. I've still got a ton of questions to answer, and again, if you guys have feedback, tweet me at UltraChenTV on Twitter. Let me know if you guys enjoy these Ask Jchensor segments, where instead of covering one large topic, I cover many small ones. All right? Thanks for tuning in again, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Oh, but stick around for Ultra David.